All right, joining us for part two of our Wednesday Zoom call with the media, Michael McDowell, driver the number 34, loves travel stops Mustang. Michael, thanks for joining us today as we head to Road America road course. Everyone I've heard from says it's the best course. It's the best road course in the country. I heard you this morning on Sirius XM pretty much saying the same thing. So something that you're looking forward to, I know.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for me, growing up, watching Indy cars and Trans Am cars and sports cars race at Road America, and then, transitioning as I came up, through racing, did a couple open wheel races there. And the first time I went there, I just remember I'm from Phoenix, Arizona. So I grew up in the desert, and to see Wisconsin and to see this big 4-mile magnificent racetrack with rolling hills and green grass and trees and all the scenery. And it's just an amazing facility, a really cool place to not only challenge yourself as a driver, but, really put, your machine and yourself to the test.
All right, we've got some questions lined up from our group of assembled media. So let's get started, and I'll just start at the top with Rob. Go ahead, Rob, kick us off.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks for joining us again, Michael. Much appreciated.
No problem.
So my first question for you is, obviously, you've been on such a great streak as of late. You've got these top 10 finishes, and it seems like you and crew chief Blake Harris are really gelling together. So what has it been like to build upon that chemistry and showcase what you guys can do with those strong results, first of all?
Yeah, it's been great. I mean, when we came into this season with this next gen car, we had this high expectation and hope that it would bring us closer, to the lead teams and the, sort of the powerhouse teams. But at the same time, racing is racing, and it's all about, maximizing everything. And so people really are what make the difference. And so, we felt like we had really good people at front row. We just needed a kind of a clean slate to be able to showcase that. And I feel like the next gen car has done that. I also think that for me and for this program, we've been making steady gains, the last 4 or 5 years. So it's not like a light switch. When I started with the team, we were running 25th, and, it took a year and then we were running 20th, and it took another year or so. And last year we were in those high teens in that 15 range, scoring top 10s and scoring top 5s, but sort of not regularly. And now this year, I feel like we've kind of made that next step to where we have top 10 speed. And if we're able to execute and do everything, we can get top 10 results. And so that's been a lot of fun. Blake's done a great job. Chris Yergis, who's been with my program here for his 3rd year now, the race engineer, has done a great job. We have a good group of guys and gals, and we are starting to hit on some things. So I feel really confident moving forward that we can keep it up. And I think that's probably the biggest difference between years past. There might be a few flashes that we had where we would, have some speed, score top 10, but then we'd spend 2 or 3 weeks in those, mid 20s again. And we're like, oh man, what happened? This year has been more, every weekend we're in those low teens, and almost single digit speed. So we're starting to get there. It's been fun. But we still got a lot of racing left. I mean, the season, I don't even think we're quite halfway yet. Right. So we got a lot of racing to go here.
Yeah, I was going to say, with it being race number 18, I think this coming weekend, and you guys being so close to getting to the top 20, has your focus shifted to being more aggressive at races like Road America, where you've got that road course prowess? Or is it pretty much like, what, because the team's been doing so well, we can give it a shot anywhere we go?
Both. I mean, Road America is my best track. And so with as well as we've been running and as well as we ran at Sonoma, I mean, we have to highlight this as a weekend that we got to try and get a win for sure. But it's not our only shot. And that's nice. I mean, it's nice. I mean, we're not quite where we need to be legitimate contenders for wins every weekend on ovals, but we're pretty close. I mean, Gateway, we were pretty close. We had the speed to be up front and to stay up front. And Nashville, we needed a little bit more to be a race winning car, but we were easily a top 10 car at Nashville. And so that's a huge difference for us, this year. Sonoma, I felt like finally I had an opportunity to, do what I always believed I could do at a road course and just have a good day, qualify in the top 5, race in the top 5, be there throughout the entirety of the race. And so that one was an important momentum shift for us because I've always felt good on the road courses. That's my background. But I've never felt like we've been actual contenders. And at Sonoma, we were actual contenders. Taking that and moving to Road America, we should be contenders there. There's no reason why we won't. I mean, there's always, Coda, we missed the setup, weren't great, only ran 13th there. Sonoma, we hit it. We were pretty good. Sonoma should help us build for Road America, and we feel good about it. So it's not a must win in that regard, but every weekend in the Cup Series is a must win. I mean, the wins are so important. And I got to experience that last year with the 500. I got to see what it does for our team and what it did financially for our team, making the playoffs and all the things that the fans don't know about. There's a formula that I can't even explain because I don't understand it all, but it helps our program for years to come. And so for us to be able to keep that going and win a race, I know how much it means to the team and the organization. And so hopefully we can do it. We'll see what happens.
Sounds good, Michael. Thanks so much. Best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Let's go to Bob. Hey, Bob.
Hey, Michael, I'm curious, right now your average finish this year is 17.1. You've never had a year with an average finish above 20. Last year you were 20.5. So I'm just curious if you ended up this year with an average finish of inside the top 20, would that mean something?
Yeah, it does mean something. I definitely look at those stats just like you do and a lot of other people do. And, my whole thing was just having that steady progression, to where we're getting a bit better every year. And the last 2 years kind of plateaued off. You probably know it, but the last 2 years we've been pretty close to the same average qualifying and same average finish. And so, I want to keep going with what we have going on this year, but now it's more of getting those top 10s, right? Like, I think that that's a stat that's really important to us and to our team, because if we're racing in the top 10 and we're doing that consistently, we're beating a lot of cars and teams that we probably shouldn't. And so I do look at it, and it is important to me. I definitely, when I look at, career stats, it makes me cringe a little bit because I spent those first 7 years starting and parking, and man, that kills your career average when every weekend's a 40. But, I feel like the last 5 years, is we've been making good gains, and this is an extension of that, but definitely the best season that I've had.
When you talk about starting position in 2020, your average start was 24.3, but then 2021 was 17.4, but mainly that's because of the formula, right? That's right. So you were, because you're in the playoffs, so you're always starting in the top 16 pretty much there. So this year your average start is 19.2. So I think, do you feel like you're also, I know you talked about maybe wanting to qualify a little bit better and get into that final round, but do you feel like you're making gains in qualifying as well?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like early in the season, we didn't quite have a feel for what we needed to do adjustment wise with this next gen car for going into qualifying. I mean, you remember, Bob, it was a big swing. We used to tape up, aero would change a lot. I mean, there's so many things that would change. And now with this next gen car, it doesn't. You can't tape up, you can't really change the aerodynamics too much because it affects so many other things. And so we just sort of had to learn of what we needed to do balance wise to be close in qualifying. I think we've done a good job. I don't know what the stats are, but Charlotte, we made the second round. Gateway, we made the second round. Nashville, we were close to making the second round, didn't quite make it. Sonoma obviously made the second round. So if I look at the last 5 or 6 weeks, I think we've been qualifying and running pretty close to where we ought to in terms of where our speed is as far as our race cars go. But qualifying is important. And I think that this year, in particular, with everybody being so close speed wise, it's super important. People are talking about how hard it is to pass. and the dirty air is way better this year than it was last year. Way better. Our cars are so much better in traffic this year, and you can race so much harder than you could, even last year. The difference is that Kyle Busch isn't a second a lap faster. He's only a 10th faster. And when you're only a 10th faster, it's sure really hard to pass somebody. When you're a second a lap faster, it's pretty easy to figure out how to get around somebody. And so the gap has closed so much from first to 20th that's why it's so hard to pass. It's not because of dirty air.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Bob. Let's go to Marty. Marty Sakala, go ahead.
Excuse me. Thanks, Dan. Michael, thanks for the time, man. So following up on what Dan was asking in the opening question, this track means a lot to you. You got your first National Touring Series victory at Road America. What's it mean to be going there this weekend for the second time in the Cup car?
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, I think that more than anything, the excitement is there just based off of this season and how well this season has gone. And obviously Sonoma going well gives us a lot of confidence going there. And I've tried to explain it in the past, and I don't know if I've done a good job, but when you run full time, if you're running 25th every weekend, you're not going to just go to a road course and win. It just doesn't happen. The Cup Series is way too difficult for that. The teams are too good. The drivers are too good. And so you have to be a top 10, top 5 guy regularly to go and win at a speedway or a road course. And we feel like we're close to that now. And so I think for the first time, we always circle road courses as these could be our best races. And typically they are, with the super speedways, but that used to be a top 10, where now we're running top 10 regularly. And so these need to be, top 5s and a chance at winning. And so we feel like we could do that this weekend, and that we're close to, having all the bits and pieces as a team and chemistry and pit stops and everything it takes to execute. I think we're honing in on it. So we'll see what happens.
And then second of all, Road America president Mike Kircher said recently that Road America doesn't have a deal yet for next year. I'll let you plead the case. I know you're the driver, but why should NASCAR come to Road America next year again?
Oh man, I heard rumblings of that yesterday too. And I sure hope not. I mean, Road America, to me is just, Wisconsin, the Midwest, is just the feel of what American road racing is. I mean, it's just so much to it. And, there's plenty of races that I can think about on the schedule that I would like to remove. Now, obviously I'm biased too, because, I've gone to these places a lot, and, there's tracks that you run well and tracks you don't. But man, Road America's got great fans. I mean, you think about it, just like Watkins Glen, you go to Watkins Glen and there's campers all the way around that entire facility. The fans love it. They love NASCAR. I mean, it's just a cool community. And that's what Road America is too. Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin is that same community of just, they love racing. They love what the track does to the community. When you drive to the facility, you can see how much they care about it. I mean, they care about it. I mean, it looks like my front yard, but better, like everything is manicured and is super nice. And it's just a great facility. So, I hope that isn't the case. I don't know. I mean, I haven't heard, any official word on what's happening next year, but there's a few that I would like to remove before Road America.
Keeping the fingers crossed, sure, for sure, man. Good luck this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
And they can get you in and out of there from a traffic flow standpoint very quickly. They do a great job.
Yeah, for sure.
Let's go to Dustin Albino. Dustin, welcome.
Hey, Michael, how are you?
I'm doing good, Dustin.
Hey, so you've mentioned how you've been running the top 10 more consistently this year. When you run towards the front on a more consistent basis, like how does that change the way you race and the way you are raced?
It depends on who it is. I'm noticing that, pretty quickly. And I think it's the same for me too, with how I race different people. So I totally get it. I understand the dynamic of, the inner teams, and then also, how you race people is how you get raced. And I also know that I'm not the easiest guy to race. So I don't get real upset when somebody races me really hard, because I know that I've probably done that several times. And that's kind of part of it, but it is interesting. It's interesting. I can say that for sure. It gets a little bit easier when you get towards the front, in regards to like the restarts just aren't quite as chaotic. because there's just not so many rows to get 3 or 4 wide and get stacked up and bunched up. You know, a lot of times when you're restarting 15th, it's really nothing to do with your ability on the restart, just timing of which lane went and who slipped and who slid in front of you. And then you end up beating doors and banging with people, and then everybody's upset. And then you spend the next 3 laps, you know, trading paint back and forth. So the race is definitely different up in the top 10. It's a little bit calmer in that regard. But, you know, I feel like there's been guys that have been generous, and there's been guys that haven't, and that's all part of it.
And then obviously Blake Harris came over from JGR this year. What stood out to you through the first half of the year working with him?
What stands out the most is just his desire to win and his intensity. And so, I mean, that's really what drew me to him in the first place, you know. And obviously he's been with race winning teams and drivers, and has been on programs, not just at JGR, but, you know, prior to that with Furniture Row. And so he's been around smaller teams. He's been around that program and saw what it took to take it from where they were to a championship contender. And so he brings that mentality, and he brings that sort of mindset, which has been really good. And so he's done a great job. And, you know, there's a lot to it. I mean, he's not only transitioning into, you know, a new role this year with a new team, but a brand new race car, brand new packages with all of its own issues, you know. And so it's not an easy transition that he's made, but I'm glad that we were able to get him. Glad that we're having success and feel like we are building something special there. So it's been a fun few months.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Michael, we've got 3 more in the queue here, and then we'll let you go. Let's start with Brendan Carroll. Brendan, go ahead.
Okay, Michael, thanks for your time today. What advice have you given to Todd Gilliland being a rookie in the Cup Series?
Yeah, I mean, a lot. You know, Todd has done a really good job this year, and he's a great teammate. Easy to have, easy to like, easy to want to help. You know, he's not a lot of ego and not a lot of some of the things that you fight. I know that when I was 20, 21 years old coming into the Cup Series, I thought I knew everything. He doesn't have that mindset, so he's very easy to coach and help. And, you know, it's hard though. It's hard for me to tell him what to do or how to do it. It's just easier for me to help him react to things that he's dealing with, because he's going to experience what he's going to experience and what he's going to struggle with and what he needs to work on. You just don't know until you know. And so I just kind of help him navigate. Hey, when he says, I'm having trouble with this, okay, this is how you navigate it. You know, I can't really prepare him for what to expect because you just have to experience that. But just feel like I help him navigate, you know, how to respond and how to work through and how to handle and how to, you know, mentally prepare and how to really move on quickly and keep focused and all those things that matter in a really long and grueling season.
Okay, and do you think we can see you in a Front Row Motorsports truck in the future?
Yes. Now I'm just saying that. Bob, my owner, hasn't said that, but I'm saying it. Even if I have to take one myself. You know, that thought came to my mind really after I won the 500, because winning a Cup race and now winning an Xfinity race, there's only a select group that have won in all 3. And I think that that's pretty cool and pretty special. And so that would be neat to have that on your resume. Now I understand that that's a little bit cherry picking because a lot of those guys that won in all 3 were like, they've won 30 times. Right. So I realize if I go 1-1-1, that's not going to look that great, but I'll still try to do it. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Good luck this weekend.
Thanks.
All right, Daniel, go ahead. You're up.
Hey, Michael. So through 18 races, what has surprised you about how your team has performed up to this point? Have you guys overperformed somewhere where you weren't exactly expecting it?
That's a good question, and I don't know how to answer it. I mean, my initial reaction is no. I mean, this is how I anticipated we would run this year. I really did, and I know that might sound easy to say now that we're doing it, But I told Bob last year, our owner, Bob Jenkins, is like, this is what I've been waiting for. I've been waiting for this next gen car. And the reason I feel that is I felt really confident in what I was doing with the cars that we had and extracting the most out of it. And, more than anything, just confident with how it's going, with everything. And so to me, I felt like we were going to be in a position to do what we're doing. It wasn't a big shock to me. I think what's been surprising has been the consistency of it. I knew that there would be moments that we could, hey, if we hit it right and we have all the same parts and pieces, we're going to be able to contend. I was really confident with that. But now that we're doing it consistently, that's probably what I'm most impressed with our team and with our group, is that, it's not just a short track. It's not just an intermediate. It's not just a super speedway or a road course. I mean, if you look at where our top 10s have come from, we got Daytona, and then you got Charlotte, and you got Sonoma in there. And so we're covering all of them. And I think that's probably what's most impressive, is that we're able to do it more consistently now. And, the next step for us is to be able to do that throughout the entirety of this season. And that's the question mark that we don't know. I believe we can, but the big teams always seem to, in past, develop a little bit quicker and a little bit more than the smaller teams. So far this year, we've been able to hold on to them and stay pretty close. And it's just a matter of, in 10 weeks, are we going to be like, oh man, those guys made a big jump and we haven't. And so, that's the thing that we don't know. We're pushing hard. We're trying to get everything we can out of our race cars and our team, and trying to be as smart as we can and utilize the tools and the resources that we have with our partners, with Ford Performance and RFK, and, doing all those things to try to be as prepared and developing as quick as we can. But this car is so new that nobody has it all sorted out yet. And so it's just a matter of how big of a swing it's going to take in these next few months.
All right. And my last question is, like, how are you expecting the next gen car to handle at Road America compared to what you experienced last year? And how did a cup car perform on this track compared to what you'd experienced in other disciplines?
Yeah, so a cup car is completely unique compared to every other discipline that I have done. Not saying completely unique to Xfinity, right? I mean, those cars are obviously very similar to cups, but sports cars, open wheel cars, it's just like completely different. I thought the next gen car would be kind of a step between our old car and a sports car. And other than the shifting, it really hasn't been. And I don't say that negatively. I mean, the brakes are better and we don't have brake fade. We don't have wheel hop. Transmissions are really good. But our car is still pretty heavy. And so the difference between a 2,000 pound or a 2,200 pound prototype and a 3,500 pound stock car is still pretty significant. And so your style is still pretty similar to how it was with the old car. Sonoma, I felt like, was the first kind of test for that. Coda is unique, but Sonoma is always a high wear, had to keep the rear tires on it, all about drive. It was no different this year. It really wasn't. I mean, from the very first lap, I was like, oh man, you're going to have to be gentle on this throttle or you're going to burn your tires up. And so that part hasn't changed a whole lot.
All right. Thank you.
All right, Michael, we're going to close you out with Dustin Long. Dustin, you're pulling up the anchor leg here, so take us home.
Thanks. Hey, and Michael, kind of related to that. So my question was just kind of if the next gen car changes how you drive on a road course, but I'm guessing from what you're saying there, if I understand right, it doesn't, or are you able to do some different things? Because obviously with the brakes and everything, you're probably diving in deeper. So I'm curious, does it make much of a difference, or why wouldn't it? It would seem like it would.
Yeah, I mean, I only know how to answer it honestly, and it hasn't on the road course. Completely different how you drive it on the oval for sure. But at Sonoma in particular, it wasn't much different. Coda, it's really hard to judge because, we spent majority of that race weekend, that inaugural race weekend, in the rain. And so it's really hard for me to tell you, how big of a difference it was from car to car. And so, yeah, it's been the brakes. Yes, you can drive in a little bit deeper, but we're talking about a little bit. Now at Martinsville, it felt like you could drive in a ton deeper. But at the road courses, for whatever reason, it hasn't been the case. And I don't know if that's downforce and drag, or weight, what that might be. The brakes themselves obviously are bigger and better. But as far as braking later, you're not really braking much later than you would in years past.
Thanks for explaining that. I appreciate it.
Yep.